All right. So happy hump day. Good Wednesday seeing you guys. Summer is really coming in. It's a little warmer here in DC than I like. It's like already 90 degrees. I'm not a June 90 degrees kind of person, but it is what it is. So good to see you guys, and we're going to get started. So today, every week, I look at something that is one of the top reasons why you're not winning government contracts. So I'm going to talk about the top reasons, and then this is the one that I chose this week. So, one of the top reasons why, and I want you to kind of write down where you think you are on all of them, some of them, none of them. Why do you think you're not winning a government contract? So, these are the top 10. Not knowing where to start. Not sure. Do you start with the Cape, the website? Do you start building your team, like as far as your vendors, your subcontractors? Not quite sure. Should you get the cage code? What's the next step? Where do you start? So if that's kind of like where you are, you really don't know where to start, then definitely put down a 1 because we're going to see if you add up to 10. The second reason is you have a weak capability statement. Your capability statement is weak. And what I mean by that is it's generic, it's vague. It sounds like you're trying to capture everything and you're really not capturing anything. So if that sounds like you, your branding isn't really great, like your logo doesn't really, it's not really on your CAPE statement. Your contact information, you don't have the format right. There's a certain format for capability statements. Then that's you. And add another point. Number 3, you do not know what the buyer's needs are. You have no idea who you're marketing to. You don't know what they want. You don't know their mission. You don't understand their mission. You've never looked at their organization chart. You've never looked at their budget. You have no idea. Um, that is one of the things. And let's say you're looking at the solicitation. You're doing a, let's say you're doing a solicitation proposal or something. You don't look at everything on there. You're not really looking at what they're saying they need. You're not paying attention. That's number 3. Give yourself a point if that sounds like you. Number 4, this is a big one, lack of relationships. You don't have any networking, connections, none of those. You don't know anyone in the agency. You haven't built any connections with any OSDBUs. You haven't built any connections with anyone on LinkedIn. So this is a big one. And you kind of want to throw this one in there as well. You don't really know how to do your market research. It's called market intelligence. You really don't know where to go to build the relationships or to kind of be there. Sometimes when you're doing this a lot more serious, you're really, really, really putting in the time and you're looking at scaling this to like 7 figures, $1 million or more. A lot of times those contacts and those connections are made a year out. So right now we're June of 2025. God willing, we get to June 2026. There's some people already planning for June of 2026. They're looking at what's going to be available next year, and they're already putting the pieces together where the people, the faces, the places, they're already building that pipeline of connecting with someone that far out. So that if that's not you, you don't have any relationships, you're not connecting, you don't really know how to research the awards, previous licitations, any of that, then put down a point for that. Number 5, pricing issues. You're either pricing it too high or you're pricing it too low. So you're either, you're losing by thousands of dollars or you're underbidding it so much they don't even think you know what you're doing because there's can go both ways. I know when I was the HOA association, we would do 3 bids. I was the president. We do 3 bids, and we normally would get them similar. If we got someone that was really really high, and they weren't someone that was adding a lot of value, sometimes there's going to be a difference in the caliber of the company, and so you can kind of understand with that caliber of a company why their bid may be a little bit higher. But if they're similar in size and value and appearance and branding, most of them are going to be similar. So then you have to look at this. What what do they not know, or what do the other ones know? So then you get someone that comes in really, really low, trying to underbid, and they normally, if they do win, they can't keep it. So if you've been on the board for a while, don't even go with the lowest. I'd probably go with the highest, honestly, than the lowest, because the lowest, normally they don't know what they're doing. And unless they're like a Walmart, then there's something they're doing. What are they cutting the quarters in? Are they not training? As you got to ask yourself, and that's what they're probably looking at. What does this, federal contractor not know? Are they cutting? Are they not doing the training? Are they not doing background checks? Are they not getting certificate? What are they not doing? So put a point down if you do not know how to price and you're not pricing correctly. Number 6, no past performance and no relevant experience. Now, there is what we call founder's experience. That means you're a person that probably maybe a C-suite or something, CEO, CFO, CIO, all those. Maybe you're one of those in a previous life. That means you worked for another company and it wasn't yours, but you got all this experience. Maybe you don't have government experience, but you have previous experience. So that means you have relevant experience, but maybe not government. Let's say you were a CPA in another life, and now in government you want to do facility services, and you've never done it before. You have no past performance. This can be a tough one. It's especially tough if someone is trying to go after a $500,000 contract or something like that. So if you have no past experience in what you're doing now, and you have no past experience with government or private or anything, and you've never done it for someone else, not even as your own company, because you can always use what we call founder's experience. If those 3, then put down a point for that. Number 7, incomplete or non-compliant proposals. You send it in, you don't do everything they say, you're sending in all these proposals, you're not getting anything back, you're just continually sending them in, and you're not seeing anything, then that probably is you. Some of you are not even in the lane to be submitting proposals. So when I go over my formula in a couple of minutes, you'll kind of see what I mean. So not following proposal instructions. It says to email it, and it says to come in person, or, drop it off in person. It has to be mailed in, delivered, not emailed, and you email it. Or it needs to be delivered on July the 11th at 12, and you're trying to deliver it on, June 11th at 4 o'clock. So that's you. Put down a point if you've either not done any proposals or you find yourself doing them and they're not complete. The next one, failure to follow up and stay viable. This is a big one. The money is in the follow up. I can't emphasize that enough. You need to have a system already set up where you are following up. You've got to stay visible. That means you have to be where they are. I always say there's 2 things you want to look at. That means you're being proactive and reactive. Proactive is when you've got something and you're going after the buyer. You're going after the opportunities. Reactive is when you're in the position they're finding you. So you're in a great position because they're reaching out to you via email, or reaching out to you via the phone call, saying, hey, I've got a bid for you, or I want you to be one of 3 people that are bidding. So you need to stay visible, and you need to make sure that you're following up. The last one is, let me make sure I'm on the last one. Oh, number 9. You're all over the place. You're an expert at nothing, but you think you are. So you've got like 12 NAICS codes down there. None of them are relatable. You're scattered everywhere. You're trying to offer everything there is. And you don't even realize the one thing you have going for you is that you are small. And when you're small like that, really, really small, micro small businesses with SBA, Small Business Administration, it's like 20 million. So our mindset is a little different. We think small. We might think under 300,000 a year. They're thinking small, under 20 million a year. Kind of annual revenues, 20 million. That's what SBA considers a small business. So we're looking like really, really, really small. Let's say $500,000 and less. And you're offering like 12 different NAICS codes. And you don't do any of it. And you just thought it sounded good. You're doing consulting. It's a big one. Everyone kind of does consulting. It's very vague. You're doing everything, logistics and this and that. and your capability statements don't look like you really know what you're doing. Your websites don't look like you know what you're doing. Your introduction letter, your briefing, your elevator pitch, nothing sounds like you know what you're doing because you've got all these NAX codes and you sound like you're scattered. And one of the things is that is a turnoff to the buyer. They see it right away. Most of those people that are buyers are GS14s and 15s. Most of GS15s. GS15, you don't get there unless you've kind of gone around. Even if you come in from the government as a private person, you've done something to be able to go from a GS9. That's the average person might get a 9, 10. When you're a GS14, 15, it's kind of high up there. The highest is SES when you get to there. So when you get there, you kind of can tell you've been doing this for a while. Some of these people have been doing this 15, 16, 30 years, a long time. So you're all everywhere and you're not a specialist. You don't look positioned at all. And the last one is giving up too soon. You just say, you know what? I just can't do it. I see the president on there every day talking about this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And there's all this noise, and I'm just giving up. I've only done 2 bids. How many bids did you do? 2. How many introduction letters you send out last week? 1. And you don't know why you haven't won anything, huh? And I know for me, just to give you a little FYI background on me, I was sending out 800 a week, because it's a numbers game. Some of the emails bounce back. Some of the people don't open them. You got to look at your open rate. You have to get a certain title that's going to make them even open the email. The template has to be designed so much so that you get their tears forming. Yeah, the emails got to get their attention. So it's like when I ask people, Miss M, this doesn't work. Well, okay, let's understand why it doesn't. So, what revenue activities did you do last week? Revenue. Revenue means, did you do a bid? Did you call someone? Did you email someone? Did you go to a industry day? Those are the 4 things that come to top of mind in what I call revenue. Revenue producing activities. Admin is admin. Invoices, shuffling paper around, looking at something, that's admin, or it's something else, but it's not revenue producing activities. So that's what you want to focus on as the CEO of your company, because we can all get busy and we can write down some things we think we're doing. Even as long as I've been in business over 28 years, right here where we are, I have a schedule. From 5 to 6, what I do. From 7 to 8, what I do. From 12, whatever. Because what I want to do is look at how many hours am I really spending on my business. Like on it. Like on it, not in it. There's a difference in it and on it. In it is the busy work. On it is making your business grow. So you've got to keep up with the time, just like you do your money. That's what we're talking about, funding. So really take a week and look at how much time you're really spending on your business. You might be surprised. You may spend maybe 2 hours and you really think, wow, I've been spending a lot of time. Like I said, I was giving out 800 and I was starting to get back 10 to 12. The what you want to look at, your return on investment is 20% of whatever you're doing. The 80-20 rule. I love that. The 80-20 rule. When we look at 20% of your energy is going to produce 80% of your results. So 20% of your energy is normally going to produce 80% of your results. 20% of your customers are normally going to give you 80% of your money. So trust that 80-20 rule. I forget who it was. It's some Latin person that, did this years 1800 or something. But there's a book that's about 80-20, and I follow that because it definitely, you'd be surprised when you look at the math, because it's all math, it's numbers. It really does make a difference. So hopefully that was one of the things you guys did. If you have a 10, that means 10 out of 10. All 10 of those are your issue. Now, throughout our Govcon, I look at one of those and we keep, because there's so much we can dive into. Funding by itself could take 2 or 3 hours. So what do I give you here? I give you the high level. The eye level is in the details when we start looking at contact names and information. That's what my students and my clients get. But for those of you that are not a student or client and you're visiting with me, hello. And then for those of you that are my students and my clients, we put those into your resource vaults. So inside your research vault, we're always going to have something about funding. We're going to give you some contacts, some templates, and so on and so forth. So now I'm going to kind of dive in a little bit about kind of what we do, what we're doing, and then we're going to make sure we wrap up in about 12:40. I'm going to go over a couple of things with FEMA. So I'm going to share this with you. So bear with me because I always share this with you. So that way, anyone that's just getting started, they can understand what we're doing and what our goal is. So my personal goal is to try to get um, each of you reaching over six figures. So like thousands of people in a business that is actually at six figures and beyond. How? Why do I love six figures? Because you can do something with six figures. You can pay mortgages and you go on vacations and you can quit your jobs and you can set up retirement and pay for children's college and grandkids and all of that. You can do nonprofits, whatever it is. What does it do? Gives you options. So you're not so concerned. Of course, everyone has their own beliefs, but you don't want to stress over stuff all the time because everything's going on and this and that, and we can get distracted, and so we really want to woosah and have a moment just to not be so concerned over what's going on. And what helps with that is when you have your plans laid out. I want you to think about this for a second. What you did last year and a couple of years ago is why you are where you are now, good or bad. So what you're doing now is laying the foundation for where you might be next year. That time goes by fast. And so what we did last couple of years is why we are where we are now. And what we're doing now is our future self. So start beating yourself up if you're not doing what you need to do, because that's where it really comes into play. So I am your host, Mrs. M, and today we're going to talk about the 10 top ways for funding. This is all for 2025. We all know now that government is important. It is one of the fastest, easiest ways as a government contractor to scale a business to six figures. Now, you can do investments, you can do real estate, you can do it online, you can do all that, but government contracts have been the easiest way to get to six figures. It is one of the top ways to become wealthy. Now, there are some changes, but I think it will always be that way. You just may not be able to make as fast and quick as you could before. And some people are like, oh my God, it took all that time before, then what's it going to take now? Well, if you're laser focused and you kind of know what to do, and kind of look at those things I talked about, the 10 things, it may not be as challenging as you think it is. So I'm going to give you as much as I can in these next 20 minutes. I'm going to talk about FEMA. We're going to talk about funding, just to give you some clarity and understanding. And we've been fortunate to have our students win over like $252 million. And that has been within the last year or two. It hasn't been like a long time. And so that is one of the things that I know. I've been so fortunate to be doing this. We have plenty of case studies where people have won, people that have done really, really well. We have people who have won $1 million, $100, not 100, but $1,000. People are excited when they get a small win. It doesn't have to be a large win. It just feels good when you know that you're doing it and you must be doing something right because you won that contract. So a small win is at least a recognition that, oh, wow, I'm on the right track. Just getting that little small win. So I was an actuant in the Air Force in 12 years, and I loved it, but I was ready to do my own thing. So when I got my little honorable discharge, I got out in Atlanta, Georgia, and I started doing my little boutique. This is me here with my clothes and all that. And I realized something. It's hard to leverage this kind of thing. Either you're going to do the work or you're going to get some people in, you're doing retail. It was just not something that I really wanted to do because I knew I wanted two things. I wanted freedom and I wanted the financial part. So with that, I realized that I'd heard all these things about contracting. So at this time, I was doing private, and that was I was doing private facilities. So I'm in Florida, and I've got some contracts with Disney, and I've got some contracts with the airport, and so I'm doing pretty okay. Excuse me. But the problem was it wasn't reoccurring revenue. It wasn't something that was um you may get one for 90 days, but the government, you're getting them for like 3 years and 5 years. And I started hearing all this. And then I started seeing these people on the street and they were picking up this trash. And I started asking questions and they had a state contract. So do not miss the beauty of a state contract. So I started finding out. And then I found out that this particular company were cleaning the the toll booths in Florida. I was in Orlando, Florida. So then I started asking people, and I don't know why people are so tight-lipped. You ask them where they find the contract, no one's telling you. You're getting crickets. I'm asking them, where do you get, where do you get the connections? What do you need to do? No one wanted to share it. I couldn't believe they didn't know. I just don't, I think they thought that if they share it, that you're going to go get that contract that they're going to get. And there's so much money out there that there's no way that there's not going to be more and more, even if you share the information. So I had to find out on my own. No one shared it with me. No one was willing to open up. So I didn't know, do I get my EIN? Do I get my LLC? Do I get a doing business as? What is a capability statement? So finally, when I did these little side jobs, I moved from Orlando to Washington, D.C., and everything I heard was true. These people were really killing it in the government, as far as government, federal government contractors. Some of the wealthiest sections of the United States is right in the Virginia, DC, Maryland area because of government contracts, not federal contractors, not just the federal workers, but the government workers, like the federal ones that have the contracts, not the ones that are GS grades. They do okay, but not like the ones that were getting those $1 million contracts and 600,000 and all that. And then they get one and then they get another one. That's what made it so nice. You might win one in 2023 and that one lasts for 3 years. And then you get another one in 2024 and 2025, and that one lasts till 2028. And that's how people were, I'm like, what do these people do? It was just amazing to me. So it opened my eyes and got my wheels to thinking. And I said, okay, I got to figure out a way that I'm going to be able to make this work for me. And so I realized one thing. The first thing I started thinking about was the offer. What is it that I'm going to offer that's going to make them really be interested in me? Because I didn't have a lot of past performance. I had no government and I had very little past performance. And so I ended up subcontracting. I subcontract my very first one with a company called Grunley. Very, very large. They were doing a lot of work. They wanted a company that had the tenacity that I had. I was really good at the employee part, getting the background checks and so on and so forth. And so they liked that part. And with that, I ended up finding some vendors, some subcontractors, middlemen that could work with me. So my first experience was fantastic. And I told them, I don't have a lot of money, so you need to pay me in 2 weeks. That's what I told them. I can't wait 30 days, can't wait. I told the prime, that's what I need. So they agreed. So I must have been convincing, huh? So that was my first thing. And I got my money in 2 weeks. And that's what I recommend if anyone needs to pay their mortgage tomorrow or needs to do something, that you want to look at subcontracting first. That was the first place I went, and I don't regret that at all. I got a little experience. I got to know what was going on. And I couldn't wait as long as you have to wait sometimes the 30 days to get paid. Sometimes you have to wait a little longer. That's why we're talking about funding. So that was the first thing that I did, was sub. And then after that, I realized that they had a great thing they offered. They were doing construction. And so I started looking at what could I offer. So the first thing I thought about was crafting a great signature offer. And that meant I did what I call was my Encore Enhanced program, my EEP program. I came up with this proprietary name. I called it a program, and they were so interested. And I did indoor air quality. That's what I focused on. And my EEP program did all these different things that very few people even now were doing. I gave them this inspection report. I did a read for what the balance of the air quality was inside of their building. And it was simple for me to do it. I just went to Home Depot and got a couple of things. I didn't spend a lot of money, but my program looked professional. I looked as if I were larger than what I was, and I got people's attention because I was focused, I was specialized, I wasn't generalized, and so that got their attention. So the first thing is I was like you, I don't know where to start. So I figured the first place I wanted to start was my O4, my offer. The next thing I did was I then had to figure out my B for my buyer. I realized I knew what I wanted to offer, but I knew, just like everyone else, I had to specifically find out who my buyer was and why did they want to buy from me and what could I learn about them. So I spent a lot of time doing that because I was all everywhere. I knew I wanted to do facility support services, but Department of Defense wasn't easy. And I was a veteran, but I didn't have any certs. But I realized that veteran affairs were really good to new businesses. USDA was really good to new businesses. So what I started doing is I started going and finding out what agencies like to work with small businesses that were just getting started. Some of them were more willing than others. So that's when I started learning the culture of the buyer and the mindset of the buyer, meaning your agency. I started looking at them as one person. I even went as far as to name them. I named mine, I think it was like Becky or something, Becky Buyer. And I thought about my Becky Buyer. Where's Becky Buyer going to be? Well, she's probably going to be at a veteran affair event. She's going to do this, she's going to do that. And so when I was able to name her and name it, it made it more personal and I really focused on it. So then the next thing I thought, okay, I didn't have a team at all. I don't have any access to credit. I think I had a credit line of $500, maybe 1,000 on my credit card. It was just me, no husband, no children, none of that stuff. I said, okay, so what's going to be the best way for me to win? So the best way for me to win was to focus on contracts under 250,000. Most of those are going to be your micro purchases. They're going to be your simplified acquisition procedure. A SAP is when you don't bid. Now, there are several types of SAPs. There's the micro purchase. There is the simplified acquisition procedure. And then there's what we call sole source. Sole sources are normally with 8A businesses where they can sole source something for millions. Like they can justify $2 million. Simplified acquisition procedure under 250 requires no justification. That's why it's what I call a sweet spot. Anything like 10,000 doesn't require, and even now in 2025, if it's over 250 right now, as we're speaking, then you require justification. Any agency until they change it with they're trying to do the new organization in June, but because it had to go to the Supreme Court, they haven't come back yet and reorganize. But when they do the reorganizing, they're going to have mainly one central place that's buying everything, products and services, and that's going to be General Services Administration. They're going to have a lot of government buyers sitting in there, contracting officers buying. So let's say I want to get something with the VA. The VA, I'm still going to build that relationship with that Veteran Affairs, but that Veteran Affairs is then going to go over to General Service Administration, and they're going to have to give justification if it's over 250 for right now, why I need it. I don't think that justification piece is going to go for a while. What's justification? Right now, it's safety. It is return to work. Those are the two biggest areas. After they do the reorg, I think they're going to raise it up to like 2 million. What does that mean? That means if I go to Veteran Affairs and I want to do their windows or I want to do their landscaping, I want to do their construction or their IT or cybersecurity or nursing. Let's say that I'm a professional services. That's my industry. I do professional services, and that could be anything from staffing to whatever, because I actually did that. Let's say I want to do some staffing for Veteran Affairs, then I would build that relationship with Veteran Affairs. I would probably start on a local level, build a relationship with Veteran Affairs, and then they would then go and Veteran Affairs. Let me let somebody in, see if I can get this. Okay, here we go. Then Veteran Affairs would go over to the GSA and they would say, we need this right here. And like I said, if it's like under 2 million, there's no justification. Right now, anything over 250,000 has to be justified, and it's, it doesn't require a lot of justification, but it has to be justified. So for a while, I think that justification thing, it was, millions of dollars you didn't have to justify, but now you do. So if it's anything that doesn't relate to safety or return to office, you're going to have to justify it if it's over 250 as of right now. So I started looking at my avenue to win. I wanted to focus on no bids, micro purchases and no bid. Under 250, those are areas that normally mean what? I don't need past performance. I hired subcontractors, which are middlemen, so I didn't have to pay them, so I didn't have an employees. I did an agreement in my subcontractor agreement for them to understand they were going to wait until they got paid. I told them I'd give them a little bit more money if they could wait like 6 weeks to get paid. Because I know submitting your first invoice, it was going to take a minute because you got to get put in the system, give them a W-9 and all of that. So I knew that I needed to do all of that. So I chose the avenue to win. I wasn't ready to do proposals. I wasn't ready to do quotes. I was only interested in no bidding. Now, the no bidding works really, really well with the relationship piece. In government, in business, in all of that, the number one way to win a bid is building relationship with someone that has a connection with someone, with someone, with someone. That is the number one way to date. Who you know has a lot to do with how far you go in business. Like they say, your network, your network, how you're working your network has a lot to do with your net worth. That is very true. A lot of my contracts, I knew someone. Now, once I built that first little connection, I mean, it wasn't like I knew them for life. I just met them and I, was genuinely interested in what they did. I got to know that government buyer. I reached out to them on LinkedIn, just basic relationship stuff. And we're going to have a whole session on Govcon on building those government relationships because there's certain ones you have to build that are more important than others. But I did what I need to do. I started building relationship, but then I had to know what I was doing. But I got people that knew what they were doing. I wasn't going to try to learn everything. So I got people that knew what they were doing. And before I knew it, I got one past performance and then another past performance. I got three with one agency. Then I was able to really start moving into another agency because I had three past performances. So, in other words, there's a rhythm to the very first thing you want to do is look at getting three small wins in one agency before you start moving on. So my OBART system, my framework that I just shared with you, all of these things we went through is in this system. Your past performance. If you're trying to win a proposal or a quote, you might want to look at your avenue that you're winning. Everything I went over is in this formula. That's why I did it. Because I realized everything that people that were causing them not to win a contract, I started looking at it and put it together as a framework. And any and everything, any challenge I ran, it was because either my offer wasn't right, I didn't know my buyer, I was trying to win the wrong avenue, I didn't have my relationships in place, and my last was for teaming. I understood that teaming up with other small people like me, other small businesses, was one of the best things. Now, why is teaming so important now before we get to the funding? Because I want to get you off in about five more minutes or so. The reason why teaming is so important now is because the current administration is focused on states doing everything. They want states to be in charge of education. They want states to be in charge of their disaster contracts. So FEMA, as of this year, will be dismantled. So there were not, I don't know if they're going to gut it, not fund it. I don't know what they're doing, but there will be no FEMA like we know it as of the end of 2025. Hurricane season started June 1st and goes to November 30th. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of money and lots and lots and lots of people worked that hurricane. Now, with the switch going from federal to state, there's still a lot of opportunities for everyone, including you. I actually do hurricane and all of that. I am in still Orlando, Florida. I have business at my corporate office one of my offices is in Florida, and then we have our offices in DC. But my office in Florida has been there since 1997. So that's where I got started, and I kept my businesses there. But I did what we call a foreign entity. So I opened some offices in places in the DC and places like that because I wanted a presence in these places. So I'm telling you to say that if you like the DRC, which some of you are here because of the disaster recovery contracts, and you want to still be involved in that, do not let it not being on a federal level make you not feel like you want to move forward. This probably ends up being better. Now, what are the pros? The pros are that there's going to be a lot more opportunities than what you ever could imagine, and probably not as much. You're not going to have to know as many people on that level. You can make better relationships on a local level than you ever could on a federal level. The con is with the federal contract, you can do it anywhere. That means you can be registered in Texas, but you can win a contract anywhere. If you are doing a federal contract or a state contract, you have to be registered in that state. So I can't do business in Texas on a state level unless I'm registered in Texas. Now, because we've been doing contracts for a long time, we have subcontractors. We've teamed up with other companies that are doing business in Tennessee and Mississippi. I have a gentleman that does nothing but disaster recovery. He does nothing but that. North Carolina, so I mean on a big level. I'm talking big, big, like multi-million dollar stuff. We don't ever guarantee anyone a contract because we don't know your background. We don't know anything about you. So I would never say that we can guarantee a contract. What we do is we do work with our students to hope to give them an opportunity to do a small project with us or someone we know. We go back to relationship. If we can give someone an entrance in by being connected with us or someone we may know, that's what we're looking at doing, is doing more networking for our students and our clients, because we know that that's the thing. And we also look at team partnerships because with our Facebook group, we have like up close to 6,000 people. And so our thing is trying to get people more connected, more involved. Like I said, I can be responsible to you, but not for you. I can put it out there, but you guys have to do the work, the connecting, to get on Facebook, the matching each other up. Hey, I live here. Where do you live? That's all about the teaming, but you guys have to do that. So this framework has made me millions and has really changed my life. And that's why I wanted to share it. And our students or clients have done the same thing. They followed it and they've really, really found out where their weaknesses are. And I just gave you the 10 reasons why people don't win. And so now you kind of look at where you are. And one of those is lack of funding. So that kind of leads us into this. Now, I found great success when I started leveraging my little employees and my subs. That's where we are here. And you will receive a capability statement and outline by staying to the end. And we're almost at the end now. And so if you've been struggling, like I said, there's one of 5 reasons. You don't have that value. You're not buyer. You're not connecting your avenue. You don't have a good avenue. You don't have any relationships and you don't know how to do the teaming. Teaming also speaks to your leadership ability. Sometimes people are just not that great at getting people to follow them. So we work hard in one of our master classes, our membership that we have where we do that. So after I figured that out, I've been fortunate to do this for the last like 20, 30 years, work with lots of agencies. And my fun is doing the getting together and doing industry days and having people that seeing that I'm in the DC area, making the connections. I want to be like a Shark Tank where I am all about going into DC and making connections for people that might live in Texas and they can't get here, but I'm here. And so I can look at doing some connecting. So that's where we're kind of looking to shift more into connecting our students and our clients with people in DC because that's where we are. And I've been here for 15 years, since 2008. So I want to really, really grow that a lot. So we love doing that. And this is us every year we do training. We do a free training. And this is us eating our dinner. And these are people from all kinds of places. LA, people came from California. And I do a free training and a paid training every year. So this is our actual free training for our students or clients. And just to let you know, everyone in this room won a contract. The young lady in the red, they wanted 10 million. State contract, North Carolina logistics and transportation. So when they came to me, I don't think they had any contracts. They were determined. So I always like to say they're exception, not the rule. Exception means they put the work in, they sent out the 800 emails, the phone calls, they did everything that we told them and shared with them, but they had to do the work. We can give it to you, but you have to implement it. And that's where people sometimes break down is the execution. So that's us outside my corporate office in DC. This is my small group of people with the black belt. They were here just a couple of weeks ago. Um, and so they were here doing when is it this year? So this year, Brian, it's September. I'm putting all of it together now. It's going to be September. I think it's the 15th, 16th. It's like that last week. And the reason why I do it in September is because right now, July 1st, we're going into the third quarter of the fiscal government year. Remember, they end in September. So I love to have that conference because I love to try and have some government buyers because that's the time of the year that they can do a lot of spending. And I don't think it's going to be any different this year than it was. They may not spend 2 billion, they might spend 1 billion, but trust and believe a lot of the contracts that administration is cutting and looking at, those are those multi-million. They're not the 200 and all of that. They've even raised it to now, I think it's like 2 million without any justification. So we want to focus on that 250. You can look at one in several 250, but the goal is to try to get to a mid $300,000 a year with regular revenue is where I talk about the 6 figures and beyond. Trying to get up to that regular revenue area is where we want to get to. So this is us at our black belt. That's my elite conference, my elite membership, where usually you're going to have had some kind of previous experience as opposed to some of my other, you can come right in. But this one, you've got to build on it. So we're not taking you down to the beginning. This is you got to come in running. So that's kind of what we look at that. So now let's look at where we are with our funding. And like I said, this is for anyone. The average person takes 18 to 36 months. And so now let's get to it. The number one thing I want you to think about is just that OBART, your offer, your buyer. This is me doing a workshop in Atlanta. I love doing those workshops. And so now let's talk about getting set up for success. You want to start looking at your offer. What can you offer that's going to be really, really good? You need to think of 3 things that you're going to do to transform that government buyer. You want to mesmerize them. Really focus on your buyer, your avenue. We talked about the sweet spot. Focus on 25K to 250. Start looking at those relationships and teaming. Do not be scared. Don't be shy. Come on into our Facebook. We love it. I know most of the people I deal with are a little older. I know I'm not a social media person either. I get it. But we must do what we must do for our business. So you got to separate yourself. This is my business persona. This is my personal. And when you do that, you can handle your business, but you don't have to put everything out there because I'm very private. And so I don't do a lot of the personal posting. It's just not my nature. But business, yes, because this is my baby. So this is what allows me to do the things I want to do. So now let's look at 2 things I want to give you, and then we're going to talk about funding. We're going to wrap it up. And then if anyone's interested in anything that we offer, I'll share that with you as well. So let me go over real quickly, federal versus state, because we're talking a lot about state. So federal versus state buyers for specifically disaster recovery contracts. Authority and funding. When it's funded by federal, it's by FEMA. When it's funded by state, it's by state budgets and some federal pass-through funds. Okay, so state budgets are what pay for your disaster recovery when you're doing it under state. Your requirements for registration, federal, of course, you need SAM and a cage code. State, you're going to have to be registered with your state. Contract types. Federal, it's going to be your GSAs and your pre-disaster awards and your basically who you know, because that's kind of like when you get into FEMA, it's a lot of who you know with FEMA. With state, it's going to be a lot of emergency solicitations. That's why I like state opportunities. State opportunities are different because you can get to the person during lunch. It's hard to do that on federal unless you're in DC, like I am. I can go to DC, I'm like 20 minutes away, but a lot of people can't do that. Even sometimes I can't because of the traffic. But you know what I'm saying? So if you're doing state contracts, it's a lot easier. One of the things you want to focus on is your response time and your deployment. Federal is all about advanced planning, requires documentation and a lot of logistics compliance. With state, it's fast turnaround. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for 24, 48-hour deployment. They want to look at what you can do quickly. That's why rental cars and all that are really great, which I talk about in a second. Buyer communication. Federal is usually changed through contracting officers, get government buyers. State is more direct. Relationship building matters. So when you look at it, this is where we look at. For federal buyers, you need SAM. You need to understand the FAR. You know that it's going to be national and multi-state contracts. Usually the funding is going to come from federal agencies. Speed is slower, takes longer to win them, more structured. You have to have a little bit more experience and be in compliance. And your strategy is usually pre-positioning before it even happens. With state, you're going to find opportunities under state portals. You're going to find opportunities under state portals. You're going to look for the contracts to be local and regional. It is all about grants from the feds and state funding that's going to pay you. They're looking for fast, quick turnarounds. That's why you're going to be good because you can respond quickly because you're local. They're going to look more for you to have a local presence and have some type of relationship. And the number one way you're going to do a lot of stuff on the local level is relationships. Now let's talk about funding before we get ready to wrap up. All right, these are the best ways to do funding. You ready? Let's go. So self-funding, bootstrapping, that's what I did. So I did a lot of self-funding. I did the least expensive of everything I could do, put a website up, did all that stuff on my own. And then I hired middlemen to do the work. I put their experience on my case statement. So I did that. So that's best for people that either you're working a job so you can afford to do it, or you have some kind of savings. You have credit cards. What we love about it is full ownership, no debt. The cons, high potential risk. You can lose it all. Number 2, microloans for government contractors. You can look at getting an SBA microloan up to $50K. Community development institutions, those are your CDFIs. So community development financial institutions, CDFIs. Best for early stage businesses with modest capital needs. So that's like if you're under 50K. Pros, flexible terms and focused on underserved businesses. So that's more like minorities, probably. These are going to be your local opportunities. Go to those credit unions. Cons, smaller loan sizes are not big, so it might be perfect for you. Number 3, SBA. This is for working capital, equipment, and startup costs. Loan amounts are up to $5 million. Pros, government-backed competitive rates. Cons, longer approved time, strong documentation needed. So you're going to need some strong documentation for that SBA loan. Number 4, business line of credit. Great for cash flow fluctuations between contracts when you're waiting to get paid. Providers, banks, online lenders, and credit unions. So you can go into a bank and let's say you have money in your account. You can borrow against your own money. Now, my background is finance, so I know that there are a lot of ways you can do that. One of the things is definitely starting to try to get your business credit up. That's a big one. Because yes, you can get an automobile and you can put your house in your business name if you do it correctly. So definitely start going to those credit unions. I love credit unions. I belong to 2 of them. I think it's what is it, Navy, Federal, and one of the ones, somebody else, I can't remember right now. But you definitely want to do the credit union, but you want to have that relationship with your banker. Go and sit down with them, talk to them. That is where it all starts. When people got those PPP loans, that's where they got them from because they had the relationship with the banker. That's a must. So, business line of credit. Um, Pros, use only when you need it. Interest on drawn amount only. Cons, can be hard to qualify without strong revenue. So start small. Maybe you can start with borrowing against what you have in your bank. People don't know they can borrow against their own money. So try that out. Number 5, invoice factoring. Government receivable financing. Perfect for businesses with awarded contracts waiting on payment. So invoice factoring, you have to have a contract. Okay, can't do it without it. How it works: you sell your receivables to the third party for quick cash. So someone asked me, can you do it? Let's say I'm in Florida. Can I get an invoice factoring in another company? If they do national, yes. If it's a national company, yes. There's some larger ones that are national. So yes, you can do invoice factoring. They do a percentage. Pros, no debt, fast cash flow. Cons, factoring fees reduce profit, normally 2 to 5%. And of course, you got to factor in how long it takes to get set up. So you want to definitely get started soon. As soon as you win, you might want to already call them and ask them what's the time frame because you think you're going to win a contract, but try to work on that one before you win. All right, number 6, government-backed grants and SBIR/STTR programs. So these SBIR and STT are grants for tech research and they're like innovation-based companies. So it's a little more of the higher end government contracts. And you can also try and find a grant at grants.gov. Grants have kind of slowed up this year, so that's a little bit harder. Pros, no repayment. Cons, competitive, time consuming. I know people that all they do is write grants. Grants is a big one, but they've cut back on a lot of grants. That was a grant world was real big, but you can still see if you can find some grants. Number 7, partnering or subcontracting with larger primes. Strategy, offer your service under another competitive umbrella. Funding help. Some primes offer uppaid capital or cover initial costs. Mind it. You will find some primes that are dying to help you as a small business, and they're not looking for you to give them a kidney. They're just looking to do that work with you. Pros, less financial risk, access to contracts and cash flow. Cons, lower margins, less control. So they may say, okay, we're going to take more of a margin, and some people want a small percentage of their business. I was able to have them do some initial cost and all that, and I may have given them a little bit off the money when I got. So I got like an advance from the prime. That worked for me. I got like an advance from the prime. There, a lot of them are really, really wanting to do that. Number 8, venture capital, angel investments, rare for Govcon, best for tech-driven government contractors or dual use. Pros, large funding potential. Cons, equity. You lose a lot of your equity and limited time case. So it's kind of hard to get a venture capitalist or investor. And number 9 is community and state developments. I like this one. There is the Minority Business Development Agency, and that starts with MBDA. State level small business credit incentive, that's SSBCI. Pros, they target small and disadvantaged businesses. Cons, often require certifications. So when you go after them, you're normally going to have to be a minority business enterprise, a woman-owned small business, 8A, HubZone, veteran, because they're looking at people that are certified. They feel like you kind of got a little bit more skin in the game. And the last one is purchase order financing. You've won a contract, but don't have capital to fulfill it. How it works: lenders pay your suppliers up front, you repay after you get paid. Pros, contracts acts as collateral. Cons, high fees, must show proof of the award letter. So the purchase order and the invoice factoring are very similar. Now, which ones did I do? Self-funding, and I did um, the prime loaning me money. I never did any of the other ones. I have a lot of clients do invoice factoring. I know people, definitely know people that did invoice factoring. I never had to do it, but I love the concept. Now we have what we call our Black Legacy Capital Funding. We loan up to 50K. Now that's on the board. That's only for our students and our clients. What we try to do is as we get people in that come in, we do grants where you don't have to pay it back, and then we do funding where up to 50K you do have to pay that back. That's by case base, and that is by application. So that's only for our students and our clients that may fit that. Now, that is all I have for you today. I'm going to see if I have any questions. And then I am going to give you an opportunity if you're interested in community and state. Yeah, community and state. I don't know quite what you mean by when I said community and state. So like your local community in your state. That's what that means. Title number 9. Yeah, community and state. So that means like in your state, in the state of Florida, they have a community minority fund. So every state has one. They're called different things. So it's called Community and State Development Fund. So you might want to Google that, put in Community and State Development Funds and see what comes up. Like I know in Florida, they call it something F something something. I can't think of the name of it, but they're community and state um, based. So each state may have a different one, but a lot of them, they're people that have a minority business enterprise. You already have that cert, but check and do some Googling in your area or some AI. We love AI now, and look at they probably give you exactly phone numbers and addresses and everything. You know, AI, everything we do now, we do artificial intelligence because it's just phenomenal. So that's just a high level. Now, of course, our students, we get into giving you phone numbers and we do a lot of that for you, but anyone that's here is visiting, that is what we have for you. Now, what I do offer is I have my new program called SMART, and our SMART is all about helping you get better at what you're doing. I'm going to show you this and then we're going to wrap up. So let's see if I can go through this quickly. So our SMART gets you down to where we're talking about state. So with us knowing there's going to be a lot of opportunities on state, it's a little bit more hand holding because now you got to get registered in state. You want to do a foreign entity. So we're doing more of teaching you how to do state contracts. Still going to be on the federal side, but if you're really looking at doing some more state work, which is going to be a lot of work, states are going to look on smaller companies because there are people that don't even know how they're going to do it because there's damage with hurricanes that are in the billions of dollars. You know, the storms are getting worse and more frequent. So it's going to be a big understanding how they're going to do that with no federal funding. That's going to be interesting. But I know states are going to be looking for someone to do things on a local level, definitely local, state, regional, and they're going to be looking for companies that are going to be value based, means they're going to be small, probably going to give a lot to small companies because they're not going to want to give a lot of money to those large ones that have gotten accustomed to making a whole lot of money. So like the consulting firms, those days are kind of changing where people just kind of do like a SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, others, and threats. That's your SWOT analysis. When you analyze your company, they paid a lot of money for government contractors for consulting. And now that's changing. So you definitely want to look at your business and you want to implement AI. So what this is in our SMART is state. I'm teaching you all about state contracts, the middleman, how to leverage that, the best avenue. We're definitely continuing with relationships and teaming. So we're adding state in there, and we're also adding how to get into the states, what you need to do, because a lot of times when you're doing state, you got to know how to maneuver it. So it's 2 weeks. It's on our platform. We do our small accountability groups. We have a resource vault with templates and cheat sheets and all of that. We have our on-demand part. You have 24-hour access and lifetime. We have a live coach person every month. We have a live coach, either myself or one of my other coaches that are teaching you live. I always like doing a hybrid. I don't like only doing a platform and not talking to you. I just think it's just so personal when you have someone that you can interact with and ask questions, because I know I like that. And I'm never going to do that, God willing. I just don't see how I can I just don't. I just want to ask questions. I can't stand when I pay my money and I can't find anyone to talk to. That's not a good one for me. So I guess I'm old school with that, but definitely want to be able to call you up. Hey, can't my something's going on. I don't like it where I can only get you online. So that's a tough one for me. But we also are showing you how to do a lot of things with AI. I use Chat GPT, but there's so many Claude and I mean a lot of them. And we've gotten really great reviews from that. And it is 2 weeks on our actual. So if you've done the DRC and you want that, you do get an upgrade for that. So this is part of what we offer. If you've never done it before, then you get both of those. So you do get 2 weeks of on our bidding platform, which has over 1,000 opportunities. Of course, I'm going to talk about the mindset part. So all of this workshop sessions, 2-day workshop part, Facebook, 2 weeks access mindset totals over 1,500, and we do it for $297. It's normally priced at $497. Now, if you were part of the other one, then you just pay $100 difference. So let's say you did the DRC, then you would just be able to upgrade for 100 and then pay $397. If you've never done it before, it would be $297. So I'm going to put the link in the chat for anyone that may be interested in this. And like I said, we go over all kinds of things. I'm in Florida. I go back and forth from the DC, Florida area. I was just there 3 weeks ago. So I do a lot of business in Florida. Florida is voted very high for doing business. It's an easier way. It's easier to navigate than the DC. DC is very political, very, very. But the Florida area, I've always loved doing business there because it's more of just getting to it. DC a lot chat and chew and just a little different market, just different. So I like the Florida market. I do. It's just different to me. So anyway, that's what I have. Does anyone have any questions? Any questions at all? Let me put my number in here if there's any questions. And like I said, if anyone is interested, then you would just pay the difference and you would be able to upgrade. 407-986-8228 is the number. I know, Brian, you're on today. We have our live DRC today at 1:30. So yes, so that is where I've seen you signed up today. So if you were interested, then we do the completion of the DRC, then you pay the 100 and then you automatically could go in there if that's something you wanted to do. So that's a personal choice. Any questions? Any questions at all about anything? So hopefully I'll see some of you on the other side in my SMART workshop, where we do a lot of AI, a lot of government for state. State contracts are definitely going to be a way to kind of move in. You want to get there before everyone else does, because it is going to be a lot of people doing state contracts and lots of opportunities for state. And let's see what the question is. How do I sign up for the DRC? That link right there. The link that I just put in there for you. You already signed up last time, Morris. So if you want to sign up for the SMART, you just pay the $100. You already signed up. You signed up last week. You signed up. Yeah. So you would just need to pay the 100. And if you were interested, we would just call and we'll shoot you the link for just the $100 difference. But you're set for the DRC. Yeah, you signed up about 2 weeks ago because I've been speaking to you. Yes. I try to remember people. please call. You can give me, I can give you our number right here. So you can dial this number right here, 407-986-8228. And then we will send you the link via your phone. You can text us. I can turn our, let me turn my phone on. Give me a couple of minutes to turn that on because I usually turn it off when we're doing our GovCon lunch and learn. And my team is at, they leave at around 12:30 or 1 because most of them are in another country. So anyway, I'm going to turn my phone on in a couple of minutes and then you guys can call me if you have any questions. If not, then you guys continue on thinking of those 10 things and why you have not won a contract and start working on that. And I look forward to seeing you guys real soon. And hopefully that funding thing worked for you. Let's get that money. All right. You guys have a fantastic day. And I'll look forward to talking to you soon. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.